What is up, my friends? We are back and delighted to say that I am joined by none other than Peterborough United chairman, top Irishman, and of course, a Red himself, Mr. Darragh MacAnthony. Darragh, how are we?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm just looking at your background there, and I love it, And it's funny because I moved into this new house, and the missus has been putting up like my wall of honor for Peterborough. There's a few things up there, promotions, cups, and I've got. I don't know if you can see in the corner. She started to put up some stuff there. Have a little look.
Nice,
See
nice.
that there, the Anfield Road with a few signatures. So I've got. The one thing about having Barry Fry, he's brilliant. He gets me so much stuff from Liverpool all the time. From Robbie Fowler. He was my idol when I was like younger. God.
Same.
He got obviously I know Robbie now years later on in the club and stuff, but I'd have been starstruck back in the day. He got me Steven Gerrard's boots signed. He got Klopp signed shirts. I've loads of Liverpool memorabilia in my place in England, and my missus is like, you got to bring this stuff over. I've got a big wall here, and she wants to put all the shirts, the balls, the bits and pieces. So hopefully it won't look as good as your background there, but I'll have a nice thing of Peterborough wall, and I'll have a Liverpool wall then just over in front of my office that I'll stare at. So yeah, very excited to get that done.
I don't know, mate. I'll swap my pretendy wall for your real one filled with Liverpool memorabilia.
Yeah. Well, it's just you collect all this stuff, and like some of it's like really like personal. They're like made out to me personally, and messages. You know what I mean from Jurgen. And messages from Steven Gerrard. I've got even stuff from Beckham, because Barry knows Beckham really well as well. You know what I mean? Man United, obviously, but so I've got all these things, and a lot of them are in boxes in the UK. A few of them are in those glass things where you put like the shirts on those kind of little models. So I do need to get them all over here, because it's kind of I spend 10, 12 hours a day in this office in my home, when I'm back in the States. That's why I designed it, because I work here all the time. I watch the Mighty Reds on my TV in the corner there, you know what I mean? So when they're on. So yeah, so it's all good. Anyway, how are you keeping?
I'm good, my man. I'm good, thank you. Always a pleasure to have a chat with you. Always
Yeah.
extremely jealous of the weather where you are this far, that part of the world, mate. We were just discussing it before we went live. It's getting cold here in Ireland.
Yeah, it's like 80 degrees here. It's freezing. So it's like
You're very Americanized now, straight into the 80 degrees. We're Celsius now. Come
Yeah.
on.
You're Celsius, you're going Fahrenheit. So yeah, so I would imagine that's probably, I don't know what that would be, 20, 22, 23. I think. I have no idea, but yeah, I mean it's quite chilly. So I've got my aircon on here in my office and stuff. So that's set at 68. So, but I like the cold temperature. So yeah, I'm believe Barry told me yesterday, even though he's on a cruise ship around Barbados, that it's starting to snow back in the UK, and I'm due there in 2 weeks. So I was like, fuck's sake, do you know what I
Well,
mean? I'll be
you're going
like,
to have a busy January ahead of you, I've no doubt.
oh yeah. So I'm looking forward to getting over to the UK for Christmas, and then the run-ins. I get a good like kind of 6 to 8 week stretch of football, Christmas, the January madness. So yeah, looking forward to it. To be fair,
Did you ever miss the old Emerald Isle? Did you miss coming back over as much?
the last time I was there was 2 weeks before COVID broke, and obviously you guys were one of the worst places for like shutting down for a long time, and I was invited over to be the guest speaker at like a school event for St. Mary's College where I went to. So I'd left St. Mary's when I was 15 to move to Spain, and I was no famous student. I was no overachiever. But they invited me as the guest of honor to speak to like about 200 people at like a luncheon in the center of town. And, I'm not fussed about crap like that, but my dad was so proud because he was also a Mary's guy. So he was like, you got to go and do it. You got to. And I was like, yeah, but I was doing it this January. I was doing deals in England. He's like, you got to go. I turned him down a couple of years in a row. So I jumped on a plane, went over. And to be fair, it was probably the best time I'd been in Ireland for a long time, catching up with a lot of people I hadn't seen since I was 15, 16. Dennis Hickey was in my class, famous rugby player, great pal of mine, do you know what I mean? He played for Ireland, the Lions, and people like that, seeing how people got married, evolved into successful business people. I think a couple of them were like politicians. So it's just an interesting thing. And obviously they're not used to me as the kind of guest speaker. So I stood up in this room, with all these guys, and they're in the suit and ties, and a few dignitaries or people wearing all that stuff like a mayor with stuff around their neck, and I'm in a suit and tie and I've dressed for the occasion. And I said, right, what do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the sports, the football, or do you want to talk about me growing up in Marbella, Spain, and the prostitutes and the money? Which subject would you prefer to talk about? To like break the ice in the room. So it's like, so that was my last time being in Dublin. And it was great. My dad goes over. I send him over from America all the time. He's been back 4 times in the last year. His family, a lot of them are getting older now. A few of them have passed away. So, for him to get back at 74 and see his friends, see his family, and he loves it there. Even though he lives in the States out here with me, he loves going home. So, in answer to your question, I don't go back enough. I haven't been there now for a good few years, so I don't know what's been going on the last few years or whatever else. But I am Irish. My children were all born in Spain. They're all American residents, but they all have Irish passports. So that would answer it right there. Even though their mother's British, and they're always like, "Why have we got Irish passports?" I'm like, "Because I'm your dad, and that's what you've got."
I'm right. You know what? I was at Oatlands College, so I wasn't too far away from you. I was up in Slorgan.
There you go. I used to live in Stillorgan, so I know all these necks of the woods. I used to work in, do you know a place called the Mill House, the
Yeah,
pub?
yeah.
Well, at 15, I was a bar boy at the Mill House for a year. So I used to like live over the back there in Coolnavon. I think it was called Coolnavon. I'm trying to go back to my memory, but I used to work in the Mill House and also Bam Bam's, which was across the road. Do you know what I mean? So they were the places that I would freak out when I was 15, just before I left to go to Spain. So
You
yeah,
wouldn't
fond
recognise it
memories.
now, Darragh. If you go, there's no
Uh,
Blakes, there's
uh, uh,
no
Blake's.
Bondi, none of that.
Oh Jesus! Do they still have the Magic Chef?
Yes, the chipper.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's going nowhere. That's an
Oh,
institution.
every time we come back from a holiday abroad, my parents would go. We go to the Magic Chef on the way back from the airport. You know what I mean? To get like the best. The Magic. I tell my kids about that stuff. And to be fair, without boring the viewers about like the trip down memory lane, I've got to bring my kids to Ireland. My wife's been nagging me like we got to go in the summer for like 4 or 5 days and show my kids where I went to school, where I grew up. The different places I lived, and all those things. Like it's their legacy, it's their heritage. They've got to know where I came from, because I'm the only person in our family with an Irish accent. Everyone else has got Yank accents and a British accent. My wife, so yeah, I've got to do it. To be fair.
Well, I grew up in Shankill, just before
Ah,
Bray there,
Jesus.
so
Jeez, you got out, did you? Jeez, you're one of the lucky few. Listen, back in the
I'm
day.
like everybody else. I moved down towards Gorey, towards Wexford,
There
like
you go.
everybody else from South Dublin, pretty much.
Oh my God Almighty! When we were kids, it was like even the dogs roll around in packs. You know what I mean? It's very
Yeah.
safe. It's like,
Do you know what? I'm so glad to hear that you're still a proud Irishman, because we're certainly proud of you
always,
over here and your accomplishments,
always,
mate. Always
always.
keep an eye out for what you're doing. Always
Yeah.
proud to see you representing as well. So,
My dad is so, like so Irish, and obviously I grew up most of my young life in Ireland, rugger bugger, Mary's, all that. Obviously, then let the side down by going over to the soccer, which I fell in love with at a young age, and I'm always proud. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things happen politically and all those things in COVID that I didn't agree with, but at the end of the day, when someone says where are you from, I'm Irish. It's like I see some people call me an American-based owner of a football club. I'm like, no, I'm an Irish owner of a football club in Britain. Do you know what I mean? So, and ideally, eventually, long term, I've always said this: if time allows it, finances allow it, I'd love to get involved with an Irish football club. I really, really would. Do you know what I mean? And I've said that for a long time, so it's on my to-do list.
well, if you ever do, hit me up. I want to be a press officer. I'll happily take care of the
Absolutely,
media side of that for you.
absolutely,
Have a little look at Bray
absolutely.
Wanderers if you could do me a favour. Have a little look at
Oh,
Wanderers.
yeah, very good. Yeah,
They're
yeah,
still out in the
honestly.
Carlisle grounds, and they still haven't copped after all these years that you can go into the bowling alley for nothing and watch the pitch.
Classic, honestly. No, no, no. I do. I've started to follow the Irish League a little bit, and there's been a lot of clubs snapped up, obviously, by foreign owners and stuff. And I want to do a multi-club thing. So
What do you reckon to Duffer though winning the league? Delighted for
do
him.
you know what? I I was watching Duffer's interviews early in the season. I was like, I'm not sure what kind of manager he's going to be, because sometimes he loses his head, and some of the things he says in interviews, he's quite aggressive. I quite like it, you know what I mean? He's got something about him. And when I saw them win, and it went down to was the final 5 minutes or whatever else, and then he's in the dressing room afterwards, I was like, he looks like a player's manager, if you get what I mean. He looks like the players are playing for him. He's like a player's manager. So only good things will happen for him now. So, it'd be interesting to see if somebody takes a chance on him, from over the pond, because, and no disrespect to the Irish League, but that's obviously where his next step's going to be. The fact that obviously Chelsea and played in the UK and whatever else. So, yeah, absolutely delighted to see him do well in the lads. Do you know what I mean? So that was brilliant to watch all the highlights. He was trying to ring Mourinho, I think, in the dressing room afterwards and everything else. So he looks like a challenging character. If you were a chairman or an owner, you would say he looks like the type of guy who's going to demand a lot out of you, and probably like to have a good ruck as well, which isn't a problem, by the way. I've got no problems with managers who are like that. So I'm always like, I'd rather managers say what they mean and mean what they say, as opposed to being apolitical and, sitting on the fence and not telling you. So, yeah, I wish him nothing but the best. Delighted for him.
Great servant to Irish football. Grew up
Brilliant.
playing against him and Robbie Keane, who were the
Brilliant.
same age bracket.
Wow.
Obviously,
Wow.
yeah, obviously they were a tad bit more successful, I think it's fair to say. But speaking of success, I got to bring us on to Arne Slot, Darragh, and his start as Liverpool manager. I mean, fair enough to say he had some big shoes to fill, but you know what I've loved about it, mate? He's going about it in his own way. He's not trying to be Jurgen, and I think he's winning people over with it.
I think, because it's really funny. I spoke to Sir Alex Ferguson pre-season. He comes down all the time to watch us train. So me and him always like sit in the gaffer's office and have a good chat and talk about the horses and talk about football. And I was asking him about, Dutch managers and whatever else. And he was like, well, there's very few Dutch managers have come to the UK and been successful. Like, you've had quite a few in the last, say, 20 years come over and, lose their jobs very quickly, not really acclimatise, try and maybe bring too many Dutch players. And I'm not putting words in his mouth about the Man United manager. We were just talking about in general before people get sound bites of that and start writing articles, lawyers beware. So, and we were both talking about, what's going to happen. Liverpool, the manager, and I have to say, like a duck to water, he has been nothing like some of the previous Dutch managers. Even if you look at him in comparison to the United manager, he's very calm, he's very cool, he's very fair play to the owners of Liverpool. They get a lot of grief, they get a lot of like flack and whatever else. They've gone out and recruited somebody that's just, and this sounds like all right, slotted in, yeah, ideally, and just because Jurgen was in, part of a rebuild, you could call it last year, like Liverpool 2.0 or whatever else. And he's gone in there and he's adjusted a few things. He's made them stronger defensively. He's obviously slowed down the whole rock and roll side of football, getting into the forward players and a little bit more methodical through midfield. Those little things he's done has made them defensively stronger, a lot more sound, and they look a proper challenger on all fronts. Now, I said to you before we went on air, and I've said this in my podcast, fartruthfootball.com, for anyone who wants to listen,
And
that
it's a great listen, by the way, Darragh. So
thank you.
congratulations on
Thank
that.
you. My only concern is injuries and the squad size. So when I say that, you've seen, I think Trent went down in the last game. I don't know how long he's out for. Fair play. Alisson has been a bit injury prone the last few seasons. So our Irish boys stepped in and looked fucking absolutely, he's played the part. And it's kind of like a big two fingers for the 30 million they spent, I think, as a Romanian keeper in Spain. So I think he's Romanian. Is he the keeper they bought?
Georgian.
Yeah, Georgian. So he's gone and he's shown them that he could be a number one, Kelleher. He's really looked the part. So because Alisson at his age now, you'd probably say good business would be take some Saudi money for him in the next two windows. And, at his age, kind of move on. But the Trent thing, I look at it and go, if we lost a couple of players, if Salah got another hamstring issue in the second half of the season, there was an issue again, you would worry about, we're used to Jota, obviously, he's a little bit like Alisson where he's injury prone, but you would worry 2, 3, 4 injuries would derail what we're trying to do. Because you're looking at Man City, the biggest squad in England, the biggest squad in the world, they've suffered with injuries and they're going to be strong in the second half of the season. So for me so far, it's been a pleasure to watch. The football's enjoyable. The intensity, the way they defend, the way they play, has it been perfect? Absolutely not. But you're talking about a new manager with another manager's players. He hardly got any players himself, if none, in the summer, bar the goalie that's going to come in, obviously, next summer. They need to give him a little bit of backing, a couple of pieces maybe over the next couple of windows. I like what he's done with the younger players. I like where you can see he's the type of manager, typical Dutch manager, good with the academy, the homegrown players, giving them a chance, playing them, no issue, no fears about doing that, throwing them in. I think we're good. I think whereas 18 months ago, we were all stressed about the midfield. We were all stressed about certain areas. And, oh, Jesus, we need to sign 8, 9 new players or whatever else. You're looking at the squad. You're looking at the young players coming through and going, you know what? I'm liking where we are. I'm liking where we're going. And I think, again, we could be, the golden patch. Okay, you took the last couple of years. It hasn't exactly been a dry regards trophies and competing at the top, bar that one season 2 years ago. I think we're ready for another tilt at the title run. Whether it be this year or next year, I think it's looking good.
So one thing I'd love to get your perspective on, obviously as a chairman, is the contract situation around Virgil van
Yeah.
Dijk, Mohamed Salah, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Because if I had heard it would be great, Darragh, but I'm definitely losing sleep over this one. How do you think this one pans out? Is it unusual for these to go to the line like this? I'm not involved in these negotiations. Obviously, you are.
I'm not surprised in the Salah one. and I'll visit that in a second. I'm surprised on the Trent one because he's like our most valuable asset. I'm very surprised on that. You know, he's homegrown. He's a future captain. I'm very surprised that's gone so late in the day. And I would look at it and go, he's probably the most unlikely now to sign because you're seeing murmurs about Real Madrid. You're seeing all those things, and he is a Real Madrid fullback. You know, that type of thing. I worry about that one. So because I don't think it's financial. I think Liverpool can afford to give him what he wants. I just think it's down to the player. Does he want to go abroad, or was he 25? You know, when does he want to make that step? You know, to Real Madrid because that's where a lot of Barcelona, Real Madrid, whatever. Van Dijk, I think, will sign. I'm amazed that hasn't happened already. I think you look at Virgil, you look at his age. He's playing like a 28-year-old, 27-year-old at the moment. He's been, after his injury, a bit rocky. Still a top 10 defender in the Premier League, but now he's playing as one of the best defenders in the Premier League again. I don't know what's happened to him. It's like Slot's giving him that bit of breath into his career again. He looks good. I'd have no problem giving him a 2-year deal. You know what I mean, and whatever else plus an option based on games he plays. The Salah one made sense to me that I thought he was awful in the second half of last season. I thought this could be age catching up with him. If you looked at his data, statistics, obviously that just a hamstring injury. You're going, do you want to commit another 500 grand a week to a player maybe who's in the backside of his career now, and is he falling off a little bit? And then you look at him this season, and he's revitalized. You look at the stats, you look at the data. So I would apologize to Mo on that I was wrong, and you would go, what have you got to pay to get Mo to sign on again? You're going to look for a 2-year deal probably at his age. So what you would say to Mo is, look, you're on 350, 400 grand a week. So you're talking about, I don't know, a 2-year deal is 40, 45 million. What would you have to pay to replace Mo Salah? And is it a guarantee that you're actually replacing with somebody of the ilk and quality that he has? So I just think you knock off 2 of the 3 problems quickly. You try and get those done now, and then you focus on Trent. The problem with Trent is in 7, 8 weeks' time, you've got the vultures outside of England who are allowed to start contract negotiations with him, and he could sign a pre-contract. So I would straight away just get Salah done, get Van Dijk done, and then start worrying about Trent. And that one there is my biggest worry, not the other 2.
The Trent one worries me because, in my mind, I always had an idea that maybe one of the big Spanish clubs would come in, but I thought it would be a 70, 80 million pound headache and not a walk out the door for nothing headache. And
100%.
I
100%.
cannot understand how they've allowed this situation to get to this point. I know we've had a lot of change behind the club structurally, Jurgen going, George Schmadtke going, but
Yeah.
it just feels like a massive overlook to me.
Yeah, I mean, I can't be overcritical because we're all, I'm an owner, and I'm in a similar situation on a lower down scale where a couple of my best players are, out of contract in the summer. Fortunately, they're under 24, but if they go abroad, I get fucked. Right now they're worth millions, and their agents and them are playing it like everyone else does, and just like, no, we're just going to see what happens in January and see what happens in the summer, which is always a worry. But if I had Liverpool's financial might, yeah, the Trent thing, it's a puzzling one. I don't want to be overcritical because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. For all we know, they've been offering him contracts for the last 18 months. We don't know. So it just depends. So I guess, we need Sky and those to put a microphone in front of them and say, look, do you not want to stay at Liverpool? Somebody needs to ask the question because there's no doubt in my mind they've probably offered him a contract to make him the highest paid player at the club. So the question to Trent would be, let's cut the nonsense. Do you want to stay at Liverpool? Do you not want to stay at Liverpool? So
Exactly.
if you want to go to Real Madrid, if that's the goal here, just come out and say it, because nobody's going to hate you for it. At the end of the day, we're all Liverpool supporters. We've lost players before. This one will hurt so much because I think he's a generational talent. No matter what the criticism he gets and whatever for what he can't do defensively, I think he's a generational talent. I'm finally glad to see he's getting a chance with England because it's ridiculous the wastage in his talent the last 2, 3 years with England. But just ask him the question. Somebody needs to grow a set of cojones on one of these Liverpool games, or they get in front of the camera and just go, Trent, are you staying at Liverpool or are you going? And don't give us the apolitical, oh, we're in talks and I'll let you. Do you want to go to Real Madrid or do you want to sign a new contract with Liverpool? Because the other thing Liverpool need to do is plan for that. Yes, we've got Bradley, but you're going to have to plan for Trent. I mean, this is the generational talent you're going to have to replace. So it'll be interesting. I guess as time ticks by, we'll know sooner or later. If Real Madrid are involved, I fear.
Yeah, and today, I don't know if you've seen this, but a billboard went up in Madrid of Trent. He was doing a modelling for Guest, and it went up right in Madrid today. A big billboard of Trent Alexander-Arnold. And it wasn't great timing, but I also don't believe in coincidences. And as you said, the vultures, I think you've nailed that one, because Madrid are already putting out the stories. They're already manipulating the media in Spain. They're making this seem like a formality, and it does stick in your throat a little bit, because,
It does.
our club are being respectful and polite about it, but that's not
Yeah.
how Madrid operate.
No, Madrid gets what they want, and Trent's lucky that he's such a good-looking bastard. He's doing all these modelling deals and whatever else. Every time we see him everywhere, so
I
he
know it's a cross we have to bear, David. Or sorry, it's a cross we
yeah,
have to
no,
bear.
no, 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 it is. Yeah, no, look, I if I was a betting man, he's gone, and
I'm
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 hoping
not
I'm wrong.
far. I'd be putting my money down alongside you, I think.
I think we can get Mo and Virgil definitely to re-sign. Mo Salah's family and his kids are very settled where they are. Going to Saudi Arabia at his age, he's like 2 years too early. That money in Saudi will still be there in 2 years' time. So you're playing in the best league in the world. Do you really want to go to Saudi now when you're already made a fortune? Your family are really settled. Surely you want to break records. Surely you want to win another title with Liverpool. So I think the Mo Salah one's a really easy one. Just get it done. So I really don't know, with the financial power Liverpool have to keep their assets, why Virgil, captain of the club, and Mo haven't signed new deals.
It is
Don't get it.
astounding. There was another thing I wanted to get your thoughts on, and that's the new format of the Champions League and the whole thing
Go.
around player welfare and player burnout. Obviously, an increased 2 games this season, which no owner is going to be displeased about, because that's more money coming through the
Sure.
door. But your thoughts on it, mate, as a competition in general? Like, do you think there was a need to reformat it?
There's always a need to improve things. You can't stand still. I've said this before about our industry, our business. So, and I'm not talking about a Super League, by the way. So I don't want anyone coming at me over that nonsense, because I didn't agree with any of that. So, do you need to reform a Champions League every 10 years or 12 years or whatever? Probably. To keep it interesting. And I look at it now. At first, I was confused. Like, I looked at that whole format. I looked at all the teams. I was like, I can't make out how Liverpool get out of this, get into the next round. How many teams are in the next round? Is it another mini league in the next round? I will say this: I love the fact we're at top of that table now, or whatever else after we
Yeah,
start.
looks good.
That that's one of the most impressive things which Arne has done. That the fact that even under Jurgen, we would struggle at times in those games at the weekend after a Champions League game. I'm not sure if you looked at the statistics, but if we were playing on like a Saturday morning, it was on BT, and you used to lose a shit over this. You'd have a Champions League game on a Tuesday, Wednesday, play on a Saturday morning, the lunchtime kickoff, and our record probably wasn't as good. It's really been seamless the way Arne has kind of rotated the players, and he's been quite clever about it. The other thing I've got to give him massive credit for is Gravenbach and how he's played. The midfielder. He's like a different player. I mean, he's like the player that all these big clubs bought and never got that player, and we're now getting that player. Because Arne has found that player, put him in a position to succeed, and told him exactly what he wants, and given him that freedom. And we're all moaning about, we need a number six. We need to spend like 50 million, 70 million on a number six. We need this, we need that. And if anything, he's been the best midfielder for us this year. And I think Szoboszlai and McAllister haven't been as good as they've been previously. I think he's been the anchor, he's been the best player in there. Would you agree with that?
I would, but you know whose name I'd throw in as well? Curtis Jones. Who,
Brilliant.
you did your Mo
Brilliant.
apology, Darragh. I owe Curtis a huge apology, because I did not see that coming.
I love Curtis. My only criticism of Curtis would have been in the Jurgen years is he slows the game down so much at times. Like the one thing I would always shout at the screen with Curtis is urgency. It's his style. It's kind of languid and it's whatever else. But Arne's style in midfield of building up more and keeping possession more suits Curtis Jones. And Curtis Jones, we've always known as a terrific talent. Two things you would question about Curtis is, can he stay fit for a full season? Because I don't think he ever has. There's always periods where he's out injured. Can you get your 40 to 50 games out of Curtis every year? The second thing would be the urgency in him. Can he add a bit of urgency? We know look at what he did against Chelsea when he took Palmer out of the game and how he handled that role. And he was able to basically put a man and match performance in and go box to box and do what he had. He's becoming a terrific talent. And again, credit to Arne, because you'd be going, where do we need to spend money? Do we need to buy more midfielders? And you look at it in there and you go, well, if we can get McAllister and Szoboszlai playing to the standard, we think it's in there. We've got probably one of the best midfields now in the Premier League. And that's not including some of the youngsters that are out on loan that are going to come back and even improve it even more. So what that frees the recruitment department up is potentially now we have to replace a world-class right back. We definitely have to replace Robertson. I love Andy Robertson, but you're looking at him going, you're going to have to look at that area quite soon to replace him. Do you know what I mean? And you're probably going to have to invest in centre back over the next 4 windows because of the age of Virgil, and what's going in there. And Gomez, is he going to get games? Do you sell him? So there are, and I would then say you're going to need a long-term replacement for Mo Salah. If you were to look down the line 2-3 years time, what's the kind of investment you need to make to replace a Van Dijk, replace it Mo Salah? So what you don't want to be doing is having to spend 50, 60, 70 million in midfield. You've now got a young midfield. If you look at the age of all the central midfielders and even the ones out on loan, that could be our strongest area now, of the squad. So, yeah, but you're right on Curtis Jones. At the end of the day, him playing for England, him doing what he's doing now in the first team, the trust Arne has in him. Yeah, a terrific young player. We always knew he had that capability.
Became a father. That may have settled him down a little bit more as well. I know Sir Alex
all those
used
things.
to love his players settling down.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. There are all those little things, and I just think also sometimes managers suit certain players and style of playing, whatever else. And you'll see some players in a manager, and you're like, "Where's that player gone?" And you're not thinking the change of style, the change of formation. It doesn't always suit a player. So what you're seeing right now is Arne's getting the best out of players maybe who weren't at their best under Jurgen, because again, it's just contrasting styles in a little way. And that's not a criticism of Jurgen Klopp, by the way. So that's
No, I
just
think that's
looking
fair.
at it. Yeah, absolutely. But no, it's exciting to watch.
There's one thing I want to pick your brain on. So you've
Sure.
obviously had some great players come through Peterborough,
Yeah.
and many of them you've wished had gone on to Liverpool. Ivan
Yeah.
Toney, Ollie Watkins. So come
Yeah.
on, Darragh, get me in early. Who's next? Who should I be looking out for that's going to make that big leap to the Prem?
Yeah, we've got. We're very lucky that we're one of the only clubs outside of the top two leagues to have had three players in the England elite under 20 squad the last 12 months. We've just had one cap this week, a young right back called James Donnelly. He's 19. He is top potential. We have a kid in midfield who a lot of Premier League clubs are looking at. He came through our 21s. He's 20. Donny O'Brien. He is a hybrid, 6'8". He plays six, plays an eight. He was a 10. My management team and coaches have developed him into a 6 and an 8. And he is, when you just see a player who slows down, everything slows down around him. The pressure, people coming at him, and he's the passer, he's methodical. He can go box to box. He's got a brain on him. He's one to keep an eye on. The young right back's another one to keep an eye on. We've got some, as the youngest team in the EFL, we've got some seriously good young players in there. So, yeah, if I was pushing for my mighty Reds to buy a Peterborough player, those two definitely, because they're not going to buy a 22 or 23-year-old. They would always buy from, say, League One. It would have to be a 19, 20-year-old. Those two there, right there, would be, very Liverpool-esque, as regards to how far they could go. And I'm putting a lot of pressure on those players. And I always tell my players, keep your feet in the ground when you read stuff from me. At the end of the day, we can give you the platform. You then have to put the hard yards in and make the rest happen. Don't get too big for your boots. But if I was to pick two players that would definitely play higher, that could go to, say, Liverpool, them two. Obviously, we have other players that are going to go to the Premier League, but Liverpool wouldn't look at them.
Well, I hope someone's listening to you, because I remember those Ollie Watkins conversations, those Ivan Toney conversations, and I think it's fair to say you were right, mate. They kicked on and they've done all right for themselves. Not too
Yeah,
shabby.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the look. I mean, the one thing I'm a Nunez fan, by the way, and
So
the
Mike,
one thing, yeah, the one thing that grates me is I need to see the improvement in his finishing. I need to see somebody, because Jurgen couldn't get it out of him. I need to see Arne now, see Nunez improve this year and next season. Because I think there is a world class player in there. I do. And I just think there's something quite not right that needs to click. And I don't know whether that's just better coaching or that's a head dog, whatever it might be. But I look at him and the attributes and his style and what he does. I love him as a player. And I just want it to click for him, and suddenly got bang, he's going to score 25 league goals. Do you know what I mean? Because I think he's got it in him. So that's the next big one. I have to see that development and change. You know what I mean? Under Arnold. So it'd be interesting to see.
and before I let you go, I know I've kept you a bit longer than I said, but I always enjoy
Okay, of
listening to you, so I'm going to keep
course.
pushing. Pep Guardiola looking like he's about to sign a 1 year contract extension
Go
with
shop.
Manchester City with an option of another one. Not
Yep.
great news for the competitors of
Ah,
Manchester City, I think it's fair to say, but
no.
thoughts on him extending?
I look, and I say this in the podcast all the time. I still think Man City will win the league by 5 or 6 points this season. I do. I still, no matter how many games they've lost, whatever else, Christmas comes and January comes, and they turn into a machine. where they just don't lose games and they just win games and win games and win games. We've had 2 titles probably nicked off us because of like one of the greatest teams in Premier League history hitting 100, 102 points. Any other year, Jurgen would have ended up with a bag of 3 or 4 league titles. So they've almost been our nemesis, stopping us winning those multiple titles. So it's good for the league. He's the best manager in the world. Let's not, let's just get straight to the point. He is a generational talent manager wise. He's one of the greatest of all time. I think he's great for the game. Where's he going to go? I always said this as his contract was running down. Where does Pep Guardiola go? He's at the, if you look at Man City, their academy, everything they do, with respect to them, who's going to give him better than what he's got? I'm only amazed he hasn't signed a longer term contract, just a year and a year, because unless he's retiring, unless he's taking the Spanish national team, where's he going? So I just think it makes sense. And Man City are very lucky. And I guess we're going to have to just see if some luck goes our way and we can nick another league title over the next couple of years. Because, other than stick a sniper in the stands to take him out, it's the only way we'll get another league title with him hanging around the place. So it is what it is. So it's going to be interesting. But for us to be where we are, for the start we've made, to be doing well on all fronts, touch wood, not too many injuries. If we can keep that squad fit, this might be the year that we catch City where they've had their injuries or whatever else, and pip them and basically get another title, which I think as a club we deserve. For the last 10, 12 years, we definitely deserve a second league title. So
Yeah,
let's pray and hope that happens.
It's difficult seeing 97 points go up and not come away with the title.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like, when we've been so unfortunate. We've taken it to the final day. How many times, the point we've been so unfortunate that 99% of the time, any other time, we'd have won a league title comfortably in that period. And that's just the Pep Guardiola period. That won't happen again. Like, with all due respect, whoever goes into Man City after him isn't going to be hitting 97, 100 points every other year. It's just not going to happen. So, I only hope that we can nick another one while he's still their manager, because I think it even adds more credibility to the actual title win when you've won it in the era of the greatest manager of all time being in the Premier League.
I like it. I can get on board with that. Darragh, it's been an absolute pleasure. I want to thank you for coming on. I want to wish you and Posh the best for the remainder of the campaign. And hopefully we can have a chat towards the end of the season if we've won this league title and we can celebrate it.
Depo, Posh promotion, Liverpool league title. I'll take that as a perfect season. Yes, please, Lord.
Absolutely. And that little visit to Ireland as well.
Depo. God bless.
Appreciate you, Darragh. Thank you, sir.